Hello, this is 13 with Superior Mobile by 13. Today we're going to do our little walkthrough, and I am happy to tell you that I am not depressed, not anxious, and not broke as hell, so I'm not closing my shop down, which is basically what I was kind of talking about doing 6 months ago. So, things are doing a lot better. It's been 6 months since the last video, and I ended a little bit sad because I had a really bad first quarter, and I did a lot of that pre-game groundwork stuff, like working on social media and blah blah blah, and what ended up happening was like business took off, and then it was right back to the good old-fashioned all the time, just work. I don't really have any updates of like, changing around the shop or anything like that, so I'm really just gonna show you my year. So right in April was when I was recording that video, and you can see that May blew up, and then I did a lot of work in June and July, and then in August I had a really huge month, and September was a really huge month, and then you can see October I didn't work at all, and that is because I went on a super lovely birthday road trip. I left Florida for like the first time in like forever, and I went up through Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee. I think I drove through Kentucky, but ultimately the goal was to get up to Ohio for my friend Bryce's wedding that he did on my birthday. So after I did the wedding, then I went over to Virginia and did a bunch of really cool hiking out there, and then trickled all the way back down. Keep in mind that this was bookended by Hurricane Helene and then Hurricane Milton. So then there was like a bunch of hurricane cleanup to do on that, and then after that I went away to Halloween for a week with Danielle and partied our asses off out there. So all of October I logged, I think, 6 hours of labor. That was the only amount of work that I actually did. I worked like a day and a half basically, and it was glorious. It was so much fun. So basically I guess what I can say is, as per the normal, I've never really prioritized income. I've prioritized life. I work to live. I don't live to work. There's a very important distinction there. Somewhere along the line after that, like ickiness or whatever, I started picking up kayaking, and because I'm in Tarpon Springs here, so there's so much water all over the place. And I own a kayak. It's in the background of all my videos. That was a gift about 3 years ago from Arnold for my birthday, and I hadn't taken it out like ever, and that was a really sad, dumb thing of me to not take advantage of that opportunity. So I started doing that every Wednesday. I'd throw in right around the corner here, about 2 miles away, there's a boat ramp and kayak launch. So I started doing that, and that was really good for me. It's good exercise, good being outside, big fan. I did a lot of exercise while I was on my little vacation, a lot of running around, a lot of hiking, all that, but ultimately, there's nothing like good kayaking to get the body moving, you know what I mean? So let's do some walk around, and I'll show you what's going on in the shop, and I'll show you why I'm like feeling good and excited and pretty stress free as far as just like, chilling. All right, so yeah, here's the office, and honestly, there's nothing that's really changed in here. It's the same deal, okay? And honestly, the bathroom and that showroom, they're all gonna be the same. Nothing's exciting, nothing's changed in here. However, we come outside and we're gonna start talking about some projects. We're not gonna look at the blue tarp thing yet. There's Evie out there. We're gonna say hi to her. The first project is my coolest. I'm calling this Project Coolest because cooler isn't cool enough. So I've been collecting stickers for years now, and this is the big sticker bomb project that I didn't know I needed in my life. So it is completely covered in stickers, obviously. We are currently 2 coats of clear coat thick on this. So basically I put all the stickers on there, I coat it in clear coat, I block sand the entire thing to knock down all of the peaks, and then I clear coat it again and rinse repeat. And usually it takes about 7 or 8 layers of clear coat before you no longer have these bumps and ridges in between all of the stickers, and it's a completely uniform encased thing. So I bought this cooler specifically for this project because I needed a new cooler anyway, and I am an autist, so I couldn't just buy a cooler and be happy with it. I wanted to do something cool, have a nice artsy cooler, and I actually ran out of stickers near the back, so they're real sparse on the backside, but ultimately I think that's perfectly acceptable. I think the aesthetic here is just fine. So moving on to the long-term project. This is a 54 Chevy truck, and I know it's got a tarp on it and a blanket on the top, and it's also got a blanket covered for the hood here, because usually I've got this thing covered up just in case I'm doing any paint work and I don't want any dust getting on it or whatever, but this has been a long-term project. This is another project car from Luke over at Qmar. This is indirectly from him. So basically there was another shop in this town, a little hack shop or whatever, took a bunch of this dude's money and put a new engine in this thing, and then this thing sat outside for 4 years because they didn't know how to wire it up. So then it ended up at Luke's shop, and he of course doesn't do electrical work, so then he ended up putting it over here, and it's been sitting here for 3 months, and I chip away at it a few hours every other few days or whatever whenever I've got some time. The thing is it is horrendously terrible work that has been previously done to this thing. It's a really cool car, but I ended up having to redo a lot of the wiring in here. And he's gonna have a whole new front end lighting assembly. He's gonna have new gauges. He's got a whole new wiring harness, and I'm doing everything at a real top tier level. So it's gonna be the one thing that's actually done right on this truck, and it's gonna set him up for a good quality moving forward to get this thing running and road ready. So that's super exciting. This has been a nice little steady paycheck when I have availability around other projects. And the other thing that's randomly shown up again is more control panel work from Dan over at West Florida Machine. So this is really exciting. This is what I had kind of mentioned previously on that last video where I was like really struggling, and he gave me this type of work. And this stuff is like really like therapeutic to be able to go in there and you can just look at all of the wiring and everything has to be lined up just perfectly right. And the fact that I get paid to do it is just wonderful. It's so cool. And the same deal is that I get to work on these basically when my schedule allows. It's just this whole constant rotation of just juggling different projects. And that's really great for me because it caters to my ADD really well. So this is the American Auto Wire box. And then basically each one of these piles is a different wiring harness step that I am simultaneously doing on this truck. Because the sad reality is I'd like to just do it from one point all the way to the other point, but there are certain pieces that are missing from each element. And so each little piece has its own little timeline. So in order to avoid downtime, I just start the next wiring harness. And as that one hits another little bottleneck where I gotta wait on parts, I'll start the next wiring harness. And then some of them work together, and it's not really that important. So let's move on to the fact that like, okay, it's mostly empty table space around here. And that's because that's what's going on. That's it. These are the parts to the cooler. This is technically just some trash that some customer gave to me, but I can't really bring myself to throw it away quite yet. This is crazy. This is actually the European 10-inch radio for the Hyundai Kona that I bought as an experiment to try putting it into my car, and it didn't work. And then I returned it to him. And then 3 months later, after I got a refund for returning it, it showed back up. And then I tried reaching out to him and be like, hey, this is your radio. I don't want it. But they had already closed down their eBay shop. So like, I don't know what happened, but all I know is that now I have this radio that I guess I should resell. I just haven't gotten around to it. And if we pop up to this top shelf, we've got some fog lights right there with some LED pods that are supposed to go into said fog lights. However, that is for good old Mr. Michael Scott up in Canada. I am unfortunately waiting for payment from him, but you know, I'll get it when I get it. So I'm not too worried about that, but that project's been sitting up there for a while. He's not in any rush anyway. I will admit to you, I am trying to repair this battery. It went bad, so I ordered a little replacement board to try and solder that in there. I don't honestly think it's gonna work, but those things are like 150 bucks, so it was worth at least attempting to try and solve it. So that's the entire project shelf. Control panels and a wiring harness and a cooler. Those are my 3 simultaneous projects right now, and I've got another 2 or 3 jobs that are kind of in the queue. I've been doing a lot of little things or a lot of repair work, a lot of work that just hasn't really warranted taking videos or recording or anything like that. And which honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I like it because then there's less marketing for me to have to do. It's a beautiful night out tonight, so how do you not fall in love with this? There's our moon right up there. That's the moon, man. That's a street light. That's the moon. Who doesn't love Florida this time of year? Golly. Okay, so in other news, we've got Thanksgiving is coming up, which is really cool. I love food and friends, stuff like that. We survived just fine in the hurricane. The yard took a pretty heavy beating. 7 of the 9 trees were knocked down, and the hedges just didn't exist after the storm, but I pruned back all of the hedges and resurrected all all of the trees, and only one tree actually died. The white geiger, which is unfortunately an endangered species. I got him specifically because he was a Florida native, endangered, so he didn't make it through the hurricane. Just died, which is pretty unfortunate, but at the same time, what are you gonna do? You know, like, you do your best, and then if the tree is just too weak, there's probably a reason it's endangered. But other than that, man, we didn't get any flooding. Our house was totally fine. All the yard just absorbed the energy from the storm, so that was cool. Helene just like missed us, and we're not in a flood zone, so that's never really a concern. The shop is just a tank, and it's super above the sea level, so there's never a flooding concern here, but those were two very close calls, but we made it through it all right. We'll see how things go moving forward. Yet again, with a leader who does not believe in climate science, it should be pretty interesting to see how much messier things are gonna get. But you know, what am I gonna do other than continue recycling and planting trees and picking up trash and stuff like that? Who knows? Should have a really big project coming up here soon. Just got the first round of engineering drawings of some roof trusses because we have structural termite damage to the house, which we've had for like 4 years now. Like, this is not a new story because I've been rebuilding and repairing that house since basically the day that it became ours and I discovered the termite damage. So eventually, ideally this winter, I will be ripping the roof structure off of half of the house and replacing it. So I will be going from a joist and rafter setup to a engineered truss design, and then I'm gonna do, you know, new sheathing, and then switching over from asphalt shingles over to a metal roofing. And I'm also planning on doing a conditioned attic space, which basically means an unvented attic, and I think that's really going to be beneficial moving forward into the future. One, for hurricane resistance, but two, facing more extreme temperatures, it's going to be a more energy efficient and structurally sound design, something that isn't too common here in Florida because we like to build cheaply, not necessarily build to last. So whatever, that's the big thing, but like, you know, theoretically be first quarter next year. So I don't really know if there's anything exciting to report other than just like, hey, life doesn't suck anymore. So that's really cool. I like that. Also, I will admit to you that I have not put a single item into any of these drawers or anything like that. Haven't done it. I don't know. I got them made, and that's the end of that. So this is 13 with Superior Mobile by 13. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.